waiting. It's
there we
go. Okay.
Hey guys, so we're gonna just chat for a little bit and give everybody a chance to get here. And Michael and Tiffany are gonna keep having a good time, and then I'll formally introduce everybody at around 7:05 or so. So just y'all keep talking, and I'm gonna share on my end, and I'll tag you guys. Everybody that's watching, or there are people slowly joining. Anybody here yet? Yes. Please like, comment, and share so everybody sees it.
Are you going to send a link? Where is it going to be?
I will tag you in the comment of the post, and then you share that post. And then if you want me to send a link too, but that's the easiest way.
Okay.
You're going to do it over here where the live comments are at?
No, it's gonna. You got to go to your Facebook.
No.
And I'm good.
All right, hold on.
And I'm gonna tag both of you. Oh, Todd's here. Hey, Todd.
Hi, Todd. All right.
Todd, and so you guys are both tagged in it. So you should check your notifications, Michael.
Checking my notifications.
I know Tiffany knows what to do, but I don't know. So then I'm gonna share it to my music page.
Oh, I'm looking at myself. That's crazy.
Oh, you look beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
So everybody out, Michael, you seeing it?
Not yet.
Join us now.
Hold on. Oh, mention me in the comment. So I go there.
Go there and then share that post from either or both of your pages, and that way your people can see and comment on it too.
Join us now.
Okay. Share me in the comment. So I go there.
Go there and then share that post from either or both of your pages, and that way your people can see and comment on it too. Okay.
Join us now. Okay.
Wow. You want to close that and then share that post from
I'm
either
completely
or both
confused.
Of your pages, and that way your people can see and comment on it too. Okay.
Join us now. Oh, we're done with that.
You want to close that and then share that
That's
post.
the 5G technology going on. This is why.
Can see and comment on it too.
Join us now. Oh, we're done with that.
This is a nightmare.
You want to close that.
Me?
Tiffany, that was you again.
It's not me. It can't be. I'm not even on anything.
I fixed it. Did you share the post, Michael?
I didn't do nothing. It just kept talking and talking and it kept repeating itself.
Well, share it and then close that window and it'll stop repeating.
I don't even know what I'm sharing.
Okay, I will send you the link. Let's do it that way instead.
I'm my email like you normally do.
Okay, let me figure it.
It's got to happen here. Hold on.
I'll figure out a way. Everybody who's watching, we're just getting the technology together, so stick with us.
I got it.
Bye.
Share now, friends. It's probably working now.
Hold on, I'll check.
It is now 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yep.
Am I on?
Yes, you have shared it from your page. So
good.
And I still have to share it from mine. So let me do that.
I shared it from mine. I'm on my phone. Nothing else has been manipulated, so I don't know why that was happening, that weird echo, but using my phone.
That was crazy.
It was you guys are both music people, so you understand feedback.
Yeah, but there was nothing.
Yeah, but I understand. I don't understand. Like infinite voices speaking over one another constantly.
It's the voice equivalent of the
The voice equivalent.
Yeah. It's an infinite loop, which is the same thing that microphone feedback is. Only with microphone feedback, it's a specific frequency. And with this, it's not a specific frequency. It's our voices. Okay, so I have shared it from all of my platforms. Are we on? Oh, we're 2 minutes behind. So let's officially start. Let me take down the comment that says we're going to officially start. Okay, so everybody, we're here. Welcome to the third installment of Musipolitics, aka Socio-Ecomusics. I've never said them out loud before, so I'm tripping over that.
They said all they see is the top of your head and your glasses.
I can see all of me.
All right. Well, somebody said they can't.
Oh, well, don't worry about them.
All right. Don't worry about
it's my wife. I guess I should worry about that. That was probably when I was sharing the video. It should be good now. So, officially starting. I'm definitely excited about this week because these are two of my favorite people, my co-host and our guest, and I've been trying to put them in a room together for how long have I been yelling at each of you about the other one? A year, maybe? I know
at least a year.
It's definitely been a long time that I said these are two people that need to meet and talk to each other. And I still believe it'll happen in person, but definitely looking forward to doing it this way as well. So first I'm going to introduce my co-host, the great Michael Bland, which most modern drum publications have called the best drummer on the planet. And also just a brilliant mind when it comes to both music and social issues and politics and just really about anything.
Right now, you see me ice grilling you?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. But I'm ignoring it. And even rarer than that, he's one of the few people that actually is genuine about the things that he talks about and preaches about and cares about.
I'm preaching about
it. Aren't you ordained, Michael?
No.
Okay, I thought you were ordained. So you will
I got a little oil and I try to spread it around.
So
quit playing with me, Dan Neuman.
Well, why don't you go ahead and introduce your co-host and then I'll go ahead and introduce Tiffany.
He hails from Madison, Wisconsin. Blazing on the guitar. Destroying the Hammond organ they get mad at him at the church for rocking the organ too hard. Dan Spiffy Neuman. It fix your ceiling fan and the lights too.
All of it.
Got a lot to say, and he better not say it to his wife. All right.
Even truer.
Dan Spiffy Neuman, you're on here, man. Love to you. You know this. Can't too many people talk me into doing this sort of social media type thing because I don't really like it.
That's true. That's true.
But I'm here, and I'm here to make some positive movement and to maybe vibrate a little higher for the people and inspire and educate if need be.
Absolutely. Well, you've been doing all of that, and I will take this opportunity to introduce our guest, which is somebody I think I've known you probably about 10 years, I'm thinking, and met through social media, I think mainly social media activism. And again, just like what I was talking about with Michael, it's one thing for somebody to talk about things. It's another thing to see that they're actually active in doing things. But then it's even rarest of all to see that they're actually genuine about those things. And I have found her to be all of the above. I've just always come to respect her work and her voice. Tiffany Hobbs. And she's going to tell us a little bit more about herself. But I want to start with a question, actually, because I know you through what we just talked about. I mean, we're real life friends now, but I know you through activism and things of that nature, both online and offline. But we've never actually sat down and had a conversation about you. And so I know a lot of what you do currently, but I know very little about you over the years. And from seeing you and all the things that you do, it's clear that you've had a lot of diverse experiences and you've had your hand in a lot of things that you don't necessarily talk about. So can you just kind of give us a brief rundown of who you are and how you got to this point?
Thank you guys, both of you, for having me on your show. I appreciate it very much. Brief rundown. That's difficult. I think one of the reasons, Dan, that we haven't really talked about what I do is because I don't like to really push myself to the forefront of conversation. When people kind of second guess or assume that I've not been participating in things, that's when I pull out receipts. But otherwise, I'm pretty mum about the things that I do. I let the work speak for itself. But as we were talking offline, my roots are more or less in music industry, behind and in front of the microphone, so to speak. I spent many years as an artist and as an A&R representative and marketing person, and just really enjoyed it and got to see the political side of music industry. And I think a lot of that really powered my activism. early on, because I saw the dichotomies between gender first and foremost. And then I saw how Black music, what characteristic Black music, I should say, was kind of shepherded and placed in certain areas to limit certain access or to bolster certain voices. And so that really introduced me early on to disparity and injustice, more or less. And so I branched out from there and got involved a lot in community politics. And I'd always wanted to move to Leimert Park, which is the neighborhood I live in now and have been for about 10 years. Growing up, I wanted to move here because it has long been lauded, at least since the 50s, 60s, as a cultural hub of Blackness, Black music, Black artistry, kind of like a Western Renaissance hub, meeting place. And growing up, this is where all the parades were, all of the activism. My uncle, Vernon Martin, was here with the Brotherhood Crusade, and it always was there for me. And I decided to move here about 10 years ago. And upon moving here, some things happened in the news. And some of the things that happened in the news were Trayvon Martin being murdered by his murderer, and others subsequent, and of course before that. And it really shaped my relationship to this community as an activist, because I saw that people were rallying behind a common cause outside of the arts. We were looking for justice again. And I galvanized, I organized, I participated with groups, I participated on my own. I did a lot of research into equivalency when it comes to law and the laws that were really impacting Black folks in Florida and how those laws were present here, what they were called. And I wanted to just disseminate as much information as possible, educate people as much as possible on what was going on and how to essentially educationally and intellectually arm themselves against the injustices and those same disparities that we had been facing. And so, unfortunately, after George Zimmerman, I don't even want to say his name, after Trayvon Martin was murdered, and again, more cases were happening, these murders were increasing. We were seeing kind of a social algorithm shift where there was a lot of angst and there were a lot of inflammatory interactions between, obviously, police and communities of Black people. And so I began essentially, again, this educational crusade to make people aware of what they could do. I began in marching and again, working with youth groups. I was in my mid to upper 20s at this time. I was working with youth groups and kind of coming on as a consultant and just doing lots of different things in the activism field. I began writing for different publications. I was chronicled or profiled by different publications. I began using photography as a vehicle to express Black love and appreciation for this community and other Black communities across the country. I really focused on Los Angeles, inner city Los Angeles, South Central, represent New Orleans, Louisiana as well. And I wanted to highlight the beauty in our communities, not just the pain. I wanted to be a counter to this trauma porn, essentially, that was pervasive. I said, we are obviously multidimensional, and what's being presented is that we are victims. And while we are being victimized, we are a lot more than just victims. We are not going to be relegated to just our pain. So I used my photography as a vehicle to express that. And then continuing on, writing more publications. And as one thing would become well received, another opportunity would come. And so it's just continued. And one of the things in my background here, which is kind of in jest, but indicative of, thank you, Dan, indicative of my social commentary. I'm very much a social commentator on social media and through these other publications and speaking on panels and whatnot, was my response to the 5G fear. And so I decided prior to creating this shirt that I would create a merchandise store showcasing my photography and my activism and pairing the two together with just different displays of Blackness in all of its many forms. And that store is called, it's a Threadless store, but it's tiffography.threadless.com. My hashtag is Hey Tiffography. I was going to say, hey Spiffy, but then I didn't want to have to argue with Dan. We keep going back and forth about the originator of this name. You guys can't see it right here very well, but under there, right down there where my name is, it says Tiffany Hobbs, the original Spiffy, because Dan has it messed up. Dan has it messed up. But we'll get to that another time.
It's cultural appropriation.
You're definitely appropriating and colonizing my name here. But so I started my merchandise store, and it has grown this year specifically. Started it late last year, and actually probably about a year, almost a year ago now, coming up on my year anniversary, not too long. And again, it's just been a vehicle to provoke and promote pride of self, to promote recognizing the beauty in the community, to be the antithesis to white supremacy. I'm a Black woman owning a store, okay? Just by virtue of being who I am protesting. And I wanted people to also feel confident enough to not just speak how they feel, but to also adorn themselves, not in costume, but in this life. This is what we are. This is not my shirt, but I am wearing a Tupac t-shirt because today is his birthday and I wanted to represent. So I decided to not wear my own t-shirt, but to wear Tupac because he is definitely someone who I believe was a wonderful galvanizer of the people, and he worked through educating them through his music and through his activism. So just a tenet of who I am. But I've left other things out. There's a lot there. But what's most important to me is that I stand up for my community, that I am an advocate of Black people, Black children, education and how it responds to Black children, and just hoping to, again, instill pride of self so that we understand that we are multidimensional, that we control our own narrative, and that we are deserving of those things that are beautiful and wonderful throughout this world. This is a global mission, and I am focusing first and foremost in my community of Leimert Park.
All right. Well, that's fantastic.
No, thank you.
I didn't realize we were going to bring up the merch so soon. I have another one of her shirts here that I did want to see.
Got to scoot it over a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And
yes.
I have another one that hasn't arrived yet. I was going to wear it today if it came, but you need to get some faster shipping.
I mean, it's COVID. We're also in the age of COVID. Please, your shirt that I ordered took like 2.5 weeks. Child, please.
Yeah, you almost died. Ship it.
Thank you.
So,
but Dan is wearing the shirt, as you guys can see.
All right.
This is again a response, a cultural response in jest to the hysteria behind 5G. And I have lots of merchandise, not just shirts, lots of merchandise on my site that to me complement anyone, especially if you consider yourself to be an advocate. Then I think that you should be investigating my site, because there are some things there that would help you express your advocacy very loudly and very proudly.
I have 2 follow-up questions real quick, and then we'll see what Michael has to say. One thing was, and if you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but I've always been curious. I know that you worked in the music industry, but we've never actually talked about it. What actually was your, besides being an artist? I know that you're also an artist yourself, but what other roles did you have in the music industry? I know you briefly mentioned A&R.
I was a marketing and development assistant. And you say assistant, but that was the title, not necessarily the responsibilities. Responsibilities were of the actual marketing and ADR person. Anywho, so I worked for Universal, Motown. I worked for Blackground before it kind of took a hiatus right after Aaliyah passed. I worked for Hidden Beach for a season. And then I worked independently. I, again, did a lot of consulting for different labels, different artists. Myself, of course, a lot of collaborations with different local artists to do spoken word as far as intros were concerned, or to lend a rap verse because they knew that I could be kind of an intellectual pairing and not just a stereotypical female rapper, which again, we're very complex, but I was called on for a specific reason. Not to down anybody who's not twisting words and looking at or putting out academic content, because it's not all about that. Do you? Like, again, our complexities make us beautiful. That just wasn't me. So I was called on for other things. But I worked with Terrace Martin. A few times I've worked with a lot of local artists, like I said. And I've been fortunate to not really be swept up in it as much as perhaps I could have been. I kind of always stayed on the peripheral, just maintaining my own narrative, again, controlling my own narrative, my own image. So I prefer not to be pigeonholed as just a music artist, because I am not, but I have a few different irons in the fire, and that's one of them. Yeah.
Were you teaching? Were you doing this at the same time as teaching, or is it something where you progressed from working in the music industry and then moved to being a teacher?
Oh goodness. My background in education as a teacher started back in 2011. So going on about 9 years now of like full-time teaching, special education, and then now general education. So pretty much all of the things I've done have run in tandem. They have all been concurrent, and you go to work during the day to provide for your everything, and then you dedicate the time that you have to cultivating your talents and your passions, and it costs a lot emotionally and physically, but it's something that I've been balancing for over a decade.
And then my last question is, when you talk about being a teacher and using your platform as a teacher, well, first of all, what are the demographics like at the school you teach at? Is it a predominantly Black school, or is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Predominantly Black. I have intentionally placed myself in environments where the population is predominantly Black, so that Black students can see themselves represented in me. And so that I can bring into their curriculum some much needed balance. Can't just teach about Columbus.
So my question is, and I guess I would have the same question if it was a predominantly white school, but I feel like the context is important. How much freedom do you have to bring, and I don't want to just call it activism, but to bring the subjects that you're passionate about into the classroom, and how much are you bound by the curriculum that comes down from the education system?
Well, the curriculum, your district is going to require you to meet certain points, and insofar as you meet those points, you're able to incorporate other parts. So again, there's this balance, and I think a lot of it has to do with how people, specifically Black people, are able to kind of code shift. Right? We know what we need to do at our day job, and we know how to function in a way that makes us safe and palatable. With education, it's often similar. You do what is asked of you, you meet those points, and then you close the door and you talk to the kids the way that you would want your children to be spoken to, or speak to them in the way you would want to receive that information as far as truth is concerned. Now, of course, I've taught different grade levels. Teaching middle school is different than teaching third grade. Teaching high school is different than teaching, and so on and so forth. But what the commonality is at every level, truth exists. It's a matter of framing, and especially in a time like now, where there's so much civil unrest, right? There needs to be framing, and it is your responsibility as an educator, if you really care about these kids, to teach them why this is happening, what it is in response to, and to give them some context about things that have happened in history, which is why these things are happening now. So it's activism in the sense that you are bringing in more of a socio-political angle, but it is necessary. You're not going above and beyond to the point where you are scaring children or you're bringing a lot of opinion in. It's not opinion based. This is factual. So teaching is a fact-based industry. It should be. It should be. But what you find as a teacher is when you go over some of this more antiquated curriculum is that there are a lot of opinions intertwined, especially into history. I've read plenty of books or looked at plenty of pages, little excerpts from books that I've had in my classes that painted slavery as indentured servitude, or it portrayed Columbus, as we spoke earlier, as a harmless, innocent explorer who happened upon Native Americans and they all made nice and came together for a meal, and then they acquiesced their land and boom, now we have America. No, that's not how that worked. And it's not fair, especially when you have indigenous people in your classroom. Our school is predominantly Black, but the other half or other 40% are Latino, Latinx, and a lot of indigenous, a lot of Native American students.
Yes.
So it's just not right to uphold these standards of white supremacist academics if you call yourself an educator. If you are an educator, especially if you are a Black educator, it is your responsibility to meet it with truth.
Yes. All I got to say on that is yes.
I was waiting to see if you had something else to add.
No, what else is there to say?
Thank you.
That should be true for any teacher, but especially us, we've been lied on. We believe the lies we've been told about ourselves. More
Yes.
not. So let's go take a Black man to set the record straight.
That part, Black woman. And another thing is that something that often is promoted, and it's actually happening right now today. There's a specific incident or movement. What's promoted is, goodness, why did the term just skip my head? Essentially respectability, right? What's being promoted has been promoted for generations is that if you behave a certain way, if you look a certain way, if you dress a certain way, you'll be, again, more palatable. You'll be safe. You'll be unthreatening. You'll advance in the Western, lexicon of social movement, right?
You're going there, Tiffany. You're going there. It was on my mind because I just saw somebody posted something.
That's what I was going to get to. Do you want to talk about it?
Well,
I'll talk about it.
Basically saying, if you follow the law, then you wouldn't get killed.
Yes.
That don't mean nothing.
If you follow the law, you won't get killed, right? That's number
Just
one.
do what the officer says, and then you fight it in court. You may not live to see court.
Precisely. Just be complacent. Just do what they say. And then on the other hand of that, it's to be proactive. Again, dress a certain way. There were a group of fine young Black men. I don't know what state they're in. I believe they're on the East Coast or in the South. And today, maybe yesterday, I believe it was today. So forgive me for being a little vague on the time. They essentially decided to march, I think at a state capitol or a state building. And in their marching, they all were wearing the most beautiful suits. They all were just adorned in perfect suits. They were the picture of perfection, right? Yeah. Their message is, if we dress like this, essentially, we won't be perceived as that. If we dress like this, then you should know, police officers and upholders of white supremacy, that we are not the threat. That is a crock of, so it is unfair to those. No, it's okay.
We want the children to learn too, Dan. Don't be promoting all that.
I have been, like, if I get started, I'm not going to stop with the
okay.
I'm gonna just try and hold it in. But their message, and well-intentioned, but missed the mark. And it's promoting this respectability that is fantasy, essentially. The problem of white supremacy, the onus of accountability does not fall on Black people, does not fall on the victim. Okay? People who are raped should not be blamed for their rape. People who are murdered consistently and who are victims of a supremacist, white supremacist set of systems should not be blamed for their own subjugation, right? Or eradication. But here we have people going, you know what? You brought this on yourself because you were dressed like that. So if you don't dress like this, then you'll be this, and it's just not fair.
Exactly. And the same can be said for women who've been arguing this point for many years. You just because you see it sitting out, don't give you the opportunity,
right,
or the green light to go touching on it.
Right. Absolutely. And you know, if you are a drug addict, if you are an academic, if you are a teacher, if you are the dope boy on the corner, if you are somebody without a job, if you're someone with a 9-to-5, it doesn't matter who you are deserving of humanity and dignity.
That's right.
And it is not, we cannot promote the extinction of people simply because those people don't mesh with the status quo. That essentially is what is happening to Black people. For 400 years, we have been told that we do not mesh with the status quo. So we are being exterminated in waves at different points in different areas in different ways, right? Systemically, physically, every way, emotionally, psychologically, academically. You cannot only, again, promote this monolithic idea of education or any of those systems any more than you can promote the monolith of Black people.
Yes. And not only that, the few times in history we managed to break away on our own and build things and own hotels and make our own money, then they want to drop bombs on people.
Hello, look at the president.
Either you want us, if you want to keep me down. I'll stay out of the system. But don't come looking around. Don't come messing with me. That's what Reverend Al was saying. There ain't nobody asking for any favors. Just get up off us.
Leave us alone.
Yeah.
Leave us alone. And when we have taken the steps to be left alone, we are infiltrated because those steps are, come on, Jimi Hendrix, there is no need to qualify your humanity. Yes, Jimi Hendrix. Good.
That's Chris that's been commenting every week, Michael. I can't remember his last name. Yes. Facebook took him down for some BS, so he made a backup account. But that's Chris.
All right. I see you, Chris.
It popped up across the screen. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
But what I was going to say is, I probably have lost my train of thought. But I guess I was going to say, anytime we make an attempt to identify by anything other than their tropes or their vision of what Black is supposed to be.
Exactly.
It's a problem. What do you mean? You mean those Blacks got their own money? They're owning hotels? Anytime we make a move to define ourselves,
yes, it
forces the white supremacy power structure to say, what are we?
Yes.
Because the only way they can identify themselves is by where they've placed us.
Exactly. This goes back to the earliest of sociology, right? To have the haves, you have to have the have-nots. And so people who are in positions of authority and power want to stay there. And the only way they feel secure enough in staying there is by subjugating others.
Yeah.
Characteristic of the country that's been Black and white for the most part in large numbers.
Yes. Toni Morrison said, if the only time you feel tall is when everybody else has to sit down.
Thank you.
Paraphrase, then something wrong with you.
Absolutely. You look at Tulsa and the president next week going to Tulsa. Like there are very clear symbols. Yes.
I wonder who told Trump about that. Yes, this will send that's a good dog whistle for my base.
Absolutely.
The day that slavery was officially over, I'm gonna go, I'm gonna go blow it up.
Exactly. He is still go exactly. Look what happened in Black Wall Street, Todd. Yes.
Yes,
Tulsa in 1921. I mean, you can look at our system of entertainment. You can look at BET and how it has changed across the years. You can look at Black publications and how they are often bought out. You can look at neighborhoods and the effects of gentrification on historically Black neighborhoods like my own in Leimert Park, Harlem, Washington, D.C., across the country, New Orleans. Look at what happened in the wake of Katrina, and the displacement of 70% of the Black population, if not more, and the lack of access for them to come back to their homes. The replacement of the removal and replacement that occurs in this country to further subjugate and silence and erase.
Go ahead, say it, speak it. I like Tiffany.
Oh, thank you.
I the big toe shoot up in my boot.
I like you
too. Well, what do you have to say about all that, Dan Spiffy Neuman?
I mean, just like you, I'm nothing more than a chorus of amens. The thing that was curious to me was, and you guys might be able to answer this question for me. I don't know. When you talked about the significance of holding the rally on Juneteenth, or now the day after Juneteenth, in a very specific area, and how did Trump even find out about that? I'm wondering, do his supporters know that, or was this meant to be something to enrage Black people and those that support Black people?
I think that one dude who looks like a cyborg is the one that set it up. What's his name? You know what I'm talking about?
Stephen Miller?
Yep. Him. He's bright. He's bright. And I bet hey, listen, you really want to make these Black people mad? Let's do this. Huh? What? Oh, okay. Yeah, just book it. I don't think Trump probably had no idea. Somebody Lindsay leaned over and, hey, Don. I don't know. And all the other thing is, I say this every week, Trump ain't really my target no more. He's just a distraction to me. We all of us here know that there's a deeper, darker force going on behind him. It's a chorus of quiet that stand in the shadows, and they're pulling the strings.
Yes,
there's a deeper agenda at place. He's just, well, I don't know what you call him.
He's a puppet.
Pretty much.
He's a puppet, and he's a puppet with narcissistic, sociopathic tendencies. So he's a very dangerous puppet.
Oh, yeah. He's playing the role quite well.
Very well.
Yeah.
Very well. But no, Dan, I mean, to your point, I believe that people are very, I give, maybe this is giving people more credit than what's necessary, but Google is the most popular search engine in the world, and people use it. They use it for everything. It is accessible. Everyone has it on their phones, on their computers, and pretty much everyone has a phone or a computer. So when people have questions, my point is they know where to go. When people want to get information, they know how to find it if it's the information they want. So when the date and the place were shared and social media lit up, even if you did not fully know what was going on, you had Google at your fingertips. And I'm pretty sure people found it and saw and realized, and like Michael said, someone was in Trump's ear most likely going, hey, wait a minute, what's a great way to be inflammatory and to provoke, especially during a time like this, to gather supporters who are really angsty and uncomfortable by everything that's going on in the news and in their communities. What's a good way to bring them together? Where's a good place to bring them? What's a good date? Everything is significant. Everything has significance. They're not.
If Blacks want to gather, we're going to gather too.
Exactly. They're not stupid. So it was very, to me, methodical. And then the backlash and people saying that, people reserving seats, our people are funny. Our people are funny. Our people said, okay, it's free. The tickets are free to reserve. I'm going to go ahead and reserve these 2 when I am showing up. It's going to be empty. And there are no seat fillers there. But when Trump realized that the plan, he lost control of that plan That's when it was, out of respect for, then we're going to move it one day later. We're going to still have it in the same place. We're going to move it just one day later. It's all very, very significant and very deliberate.
Yeah, it's calculated.
Very, very calculated.
Can we get into well, shucks, there's so many different ways to go right now.
Go ahead, Michael.
I'm just feeling all sorts of kind of different ways these days, just because every day since George Floyd got murdered, another one of us has gone, at least. You know, I'm still working to certain things. Certain states have outlawed that chokehold. Minnesota hasn't done it yet.
Again, very significant.
Yeah, I'm keeping my eye on the ball. I'm not going to get caught up in all this crosstalk. I'm still looking for action. And I know as far as those 4 cops go, it's going to be a minute before they, if they go to trial.
If they even go, right. And I think what's happening now is let's do everything we can to placate the people, to calm them down,
right.
Make these performances grand so that they are believable. Let's get every corporation we can, from Gushers to Kellogg to whatever, to make a statement about Black Lives Mattering.
Yeah, I don't care about none of that.
I mean, really,
that's empty.
Exactly. Let's parade mayors out front and have them declare more transparency, things that they often say in the wake of shootings and unrest or upheaval in their communities, in their cities. Let's do all these things so that we can buy time.
Sure.
We can buy time, because ultimately we don't really feel what happened to Breonna Taylor was even necessary as far as holding her killers accountable. Let's overlook that completely.
You're going to make a law based with her name on it.
Exactly, but still not prosecute her killers. So what sense does it make? We're using her as a symbol. She's being used as a symbol, but her humanity is not being respected to the point where we are going to actually hold her killers accountable. We're not even going to acknowledge that she was murdered by allowing them to continue to go free, but we'll put her name on something. There's so much symbolism and performance that it's ridiculous. And we're going to do everything we can to placate Black people and their supporters.
That's right.
So that once this ruling comes down, which absolves the majority of these police officers of the more heinous allegations and charges, because they may get something, but the more heinous second-degree murder and the manslaughter charges and whatnot, once that happens and they are absolved, and the world is ready to, disrupt and erupt again, they're gonna use it against us. They're gonna go, but wait, we gave you all of these things, remember? And you promised that you would be okay. You promised. Trump got up today. 8 families, including Ahmaud Arbery's, were at the White House to testify on their behalf about the impact, basically victims' impact statements, the impact on their families of their loved ones' killing by police officers. And they were there essentially to evoke the emotional and legislative response, right? Give us this, please. Be pleading. Why they need to plead? It's not their fault. I am not blaming them for anything. Not the families get not one bit of blame from me, but the lawyer who put them up there, Lee Merritt Esquire, to put them up there and have them plead as if their pleas have not already been heard. They have cried. They have fallen at the feet of these people and begged and pleaded. They were pleading. Their family members were pleading on camera. What more do they need to say to receive, the respect that they deserve, and the legislation that should come in the wake of things like this, the legislation that should have already been there? But instead, we're doing this symbolism again. We're propping people up. We're using symbols. We're using props. We're using all these different things and people. And it's just right now to keep a level of calm.
I completely agree, 100%. Those people, let them have their dignity.
Yeah.
If there were due process of law, they wouldn't need to go in there pleading their case in the first place. They
Right.
shouldn't have to. Black trauma should not have to be the centerpiece
Right.
of legislation or of the legislative hearing.
Right.
Or yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh man, we're the only ones who have to ask for peace and try to get everybody calm when things happen to us.
Yeah.
we can't go to war.
Absolutely. We are too, and we unfortunately our religious leaders are called on to spread messages of peace and calm.
Sure.
And it's not fair. It's not fair.
Well,
but these things have been happening for generations. If you grew up when I did, and whether you lived in Los Angeles or you were experiencing what happened in 1992 via television, then the riots and the conversations leading up to the riots, the conversations in the wake of the riots, and going on until Rodney King's beaters were absolved of guilt, the conversations are identical to what's happening now. The conversations are cyclical. Now, what's different is that social media is here and you have, 7 point something billion people in the world. The world is just larger. There are more avenues, more voices are being heard. And this time, for some reason, with the recent killings, murders, a more diverse crowd is coming out.
Uh-huh.
And in talking this through with many of my friends of multiple races, what it feels like is that not only are people now being given the chance to actually come out and socialize because we've had COVID and a 3-month hiatus from socialization. So people are using this cause as a reason to get out with their friends. I've seen it. And not only that, but also people want to feel good. Protesting can be cathartic. It can be therapeutic. Coming together, rallying behind a common cause, being a hero is often a feel-good motive, right? We want to feel good. And what better way to feel good than to confront racism, in this sense, on a grand scale as it pertains to police violence. However, so many things are being overlooked to get to this point. We have literally jumped from A to G on the list of things that affect marginalized communities, namely Black communities. Why now are people latching on to this when we've had all these things since or before and all these things since? All these things since. You have a spate of suicides that are happening now.
You went there. You went there, Dan.
She went there.
She's
There
there.
Suicides happening across the country. And, that's not, we can get into the conversation about Black mental health or mental health in general and how it is a very real thing. And people do commit suicide. And there are people who hang themselves who are Black. One just did. Rest in peace, Jazz Fly. Yet and still, people jumped from A to F. Why are people so gung-ho now? And I think it is a combination of being locked down for COVID, feeling a really strong desire to get out and be amongst other people, and then also wanting to feel good because this time, this 3-month period has been quite depressive for people. So what's going to happen after the everything kind of calms down and dies down? It feels like that hamster wheel again, very cyclical. We're going to go back to posting about, whatever, and spending our money with people and corporations that don't value us, not just us, but our supporters, our advocates. Advocates can put it on, take it off. Black folks cannot. Those indigenous people cannot. And there are other people who are obviously victims of the police. We saw that older white man get knocked to the ground. His head was bashed in, from his fall. It is still continuing. So what makes one crime more significant or more of a rallying cry than others? I don't know.
Well, we find ourselves at this crossroads in every talk, Dan, where we need to be solution oriented. I mean, in the short term, we need justice. In the long term, we need reform. We all know that. I would like to see, convictions and equitable, appropriate prison time, for the officers involved in murdering George Floyd. Breonna Taylor, I mean, it'd be nice to see. I'm cautiously optimistic that any real progress is taking place right this second. But, also, I think that there needs to be some independent review of public safety officers. You can't let the union police themselves. You're never going to get the true story if it's,
right.
They got their finger on the scale.
Right.
On the scale, rather.
Right.
Also modification to the standards by which officers can be prosecuted. That's another thing. That really, I mean, if we're talking about actionable steps, now how we get there, it's like if we got to keep turning tables over like Jesus, that's all right. I don't mind that. They weren't listening when we tried to protest peacefully.
Right. I mean, as Eric is saying now, or asking, is by any means necessary, an appropriate plan of action, Malcolm's words. And I think, yes, I think any means we're not going to acquiesce. We are going to continue on until we get what we need. And a need is so much different than a want. Needs are rights. Needs are rights. And if our human rights, our civil rights are constantly being infringed upon or just eradicated and ignored altogether, then yes, by any means, we should get them back. We should have them reinstated. I'm also a fan of Garvey.
Yes.
Leave.
Mm-hmm.
If you can go somewhere else, leave. Leave.
Absolutely.
Leave. I saw someone ask a little while earlier, is Chaz a distraction in Seattle? No, it is not. It is a direct response to by any means necessary. Is Chaz a distraction? No, it is a community. It's not familiar. Essentially, it's okay. I have some friends who are there in Seattle, and so they have given me their on the ground synopsis. Essentially, after the National Guard left, prior to them leaving, the National Guard quite terroristic in their response to crowds and protesters, pelting people with the rubber bullets, being very hyper aggressive in situations, and again inflammatory and provocative. Once they left their barricades behind. As they began to leave, they were leaving their barricades, and community members from different organizations rallied together and walled off a 6 or 8 square block section of Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood, and they have claimed it essentially or deemed it as an independent state. They are operating independent of any state governance. They are their own protection. They are their own provisions, provider, everything you can think of. They are operating independently. And it is, and a lot of the politicians in Seattle and in Washington largely are listening.
Sure.
They're listening because these people commandeered and they have things that can meet other things, if you know what I mean, should it come to that. And so there is a lot of fear there, and they see that by any means necessary, Malcolm's words, not that they're using this as their platform, but I am, by any means necessary is being played out in Seattle. And they are showing this, we don't need you. We can do this. We will be our own police. And you see other neighborhoods in Jersey. I forget what city there is in Jersey, but in Jersey, there's a city where policing has been completely reformed and police roam the streets in packs of 2 or 3 unarmed. And in Los Angeles or in California, I don't remember if it's the state or just our city, there are demands that were put on the table today at a meeting, yesterday as well, the last few weeks, to reform policing. Is happening across the country, where that cities are asking for more independence, more autonomy.
Sure.
When you look at communities of color, most of us don't really, Camden, thank you. Most of us don't really even deal with the police in a way that is conventional. Our dealing with them is very reactionary, right?
Oh, yeah.
We don't necessarily proactively seek them out.
No.
Often
we don't go looking for the cops.
No, we don't. We go the other way. We're slow down when we see them.
Did you see that I saw a little film of this kid who was playing basketball, like just shooting hoops in his driveway. And the cops came driving around and he hid behind the car in the driveway just so the police wouldn't even see him. He was just at his own house, just shooting baskets in the front yard. And that kid was so terrified, he just froze behind the car until the cops got clear of him. That just made me want to cry. To carry that kind of drama in your brain when you're probably 11, 12, it's crazy. It's crazy. Can I jump into a different thing that's been on my mind?
Go ahead, Michael.
And I need to ask Tiffany, because I'm not sure if my thinking is sound or not about this, but every time I hear a young black male get called little man, the implications in my brain my brain just starts to spin. I don't like that. It's like we're never allowed. Do you know what I mean? Like there's an inherent responsibility that goes along with that. Like you got to carry the weight on your shoulders, and you're 6. You're a little man. Like,
yeah,
you're already you. The system is in a matter of a few short years, maybe if you're lucky, the system will be hunting you down. Like the social responsibility that goes with being young and black. Every time I hear, and I know it's meant to be a term of endearment, but I feel like it's heaping this responsibility on the shoulders of our young. I don't like the implications of calling let that boy be a young boy. Right. I mean, I don't want him to be ignorant of the surroundings, but I had a talk with somebody on the phone today, and she'll go nameless because she has ties to people, and I'd rather she have her privacy. She was talking about her 21-year-old son who is half black, half Latina. And he's had one encounter with the cops. It was probably around when he was I think she said 10 or 11. And she had just sent him into the Walmart with her credit card to go buy something. And she had to watch her grandmother who was in the car with them. And the cops stopped the kid and said, "You sell drugs." And she had to come up out the car and get into it with this police officer over whether or not her 11-year-old son is the kid has never been in trouble with the law. Well, now he's 21 and he's seen all this stuff on television, and he's realizing that it's open season on people like him. And he's angry. He doesn't know what to do with his rage. She took him to a peaceful protest, and he was like, "Why aren't they doing anything?" Like, he's already hot. You could fry an egg on his forehead now. It's I mean, I'm just sharing and relating. I don't really have an answer to any of it, but I was young once, and I was angry.
Absolutely.
And I also grew up on all the black intellectuals' writings: James Baldwin, Garvey, Malcolm. It was all in the house. My sisters were avid readers, so I read everything they had laying around. Sounder, I know why the cage bird sings. It was all just kind of there. So I guess my family taught imbued me with my black consciousness. So I know how to be articulate without letting it come to I know how to use my mind to get through it. Mm-hmm. But still, I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this right now. I was moved to speak on it, and my heart goes out to all of our young black sisters and brothers, trying to make something out of this situation that we couldn't.
Right.
Generations before.
Right. And that's where that call to actual action is so pivotal. Right. Conversations like this are wonderful because you can talk through ideas and kind of bounce things off of people. Mm-hmm. Talking also has an endpoint, and then where that picks up from is with action. And without action, we're just continuing to have, futile conversation. Right. And mm-hmm. the action needs to be more long lasting. It can't, again, just be to placate. Cat Ryder is asking if there are anyone in leadership positions that we find trustworthy. Locally, yes, I can look to local leaders off camera who are doing the work, and they will likely always be kept at bay because they are action oriented and not necessarily interested in going along with the get along. There are lots of leaders in everyone's own city who you can actually look to. You don't have to simply look to, the presidential cabinet or your state leaders. Look more locally, because what I look for in a leader may not be what you look for in a leader, but they are there. And as Nia was just saying, as far as age bias is concerned, absolutely. There are studies that show that Black girls are, when they are perceived in public, especially by educators and often by people of authority, police officers, they are thought to be somewhere between 3 and 5 years older than their actual age. And when it comes to Black boys, they are perceived as being somewhere from 5 to 7 years older than their actual age. You have Tamir Rice, who should have graduated this year with the graduating senior class, who was 11? And was he 11 or 13? 11, I believe. 11, but perceived as being, a Black male with a handgun. It's like, this is something, these things are ingrained much, and they come with implications. Michael, much like you're saying, there are implications that just compound, again, the shoulders of Black youth, whether it's perception by outsiders or it is a term of endearment that comes with this innumerable weight that creates, a lack of boyhood or innocence or girlhood. It's mm-hmm. without the proper framing, again, without someone to counteract that, whether it's an educator or another adult hearing, hey, little man, or look at my little man, and saying, no, that's a boy, and who knows how that would play out in that conversation. But without the proper counter, things are going to go unfettered. And that's where action is. Action is small, all the way up to large displays of action. You are an activist simply when you stand against people who are perceiving Black children as being less than capable or intellectually disabled or hyper violent or aggressive or over sexualized. You are an activist when you speak to your family and advocate for the children who are being told that they are little men and women at 10 and 11 and 12 years old, implying that they're to take the weight of adulthood upon them and leave their childhood behind. Activism isn't only a grand display. It's not just marching in the street with your fist up. It's not just bombarding the state capitol with, your demands and your bullhorn. It's not just, going into the halls of your senator and demanding for legislation. Activism, the activism that should be happening, is literally in your living room.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. I can't even put nothing down on that. Tiffany just put the she just put the dollar down. Yes, and the other thing I was going to say is, when you do that to children, you're taking away their freedom to dream. To envision a different life for themselves. They got to keep picking up the same, dealing with the same thing we're dealing with. I think you can't shelter them from the reality of their surroundings, but they got to have time to just be a kid.
Yeah.
They for better things, aspire to things,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's enough waiting for them, for us to.
They'll get to it.
Take it away.
Get to them.
Yeah.
Oh, a shout out to Jack Collins too, Julius's son. Jack Collins, God bless him. He's out there in the street doing for people. He lost his job apparently, but he's still out every night, back over there, over south, giving his all. That young black man is making me proud, and I ain't even his daddy. So, Jack, I don't mean to tell all your business, but I love you, and you know it.
Good job, Jack.
Yeah.
So, not to jump topics, but something you said earlier, Michael, reminded me of something we were talking about this week that I'd made a note that would be a good thing to discuss with Tiffany, which is you're talking about the inherent trauma of revisiting what's going on. And you had talked about how you have your personal feelings about this, using "I can't breathe" as a slogan.
Yeah, I mean, my views, I haven't turned the final screw on that yet.
Okay.
You know, but I'm just personally, well, I was talking about how they at the bottom of the George Floyd mural here in Minneapolis, it says, "I can breathe now," you know, but everybody's still walking around, you know, with these "I can't breathe" shirts. It's like being in a state of arrested development to me when I see that. Do you have find that to have any validity, Tiffany?
I think considering it as arrested development is the perfect way to frame it. It keeps us stuck. I don't like using the last words. I don't like holding victims in place at their death. I like to celebrate and recognize victims, and they're not victims, they're people who were victimized.
Yeah.
So let me even rephrase that. I want to take these people whose lives were taken, they were people, and highlight the positive things, promote them as they were when they were alive, and not simply reduce them to the moment of their death.
Yeah.
So I understand that, again, pain is very complex, and the expression of pain, again, is not monolithic. People are going to do what they do and how they feel because it is an emotion, and emotions are diverse. Personally, I shy away from wearing and using symbols that, again, hold people at the moment of their death.
Yeah. Well, okay, then I feel all right about that then.
I mean, I'm not gonna say that you were wrong or right. It's
yeah. I haven't come to the place where I am able to articulate my feelings on it. It's just something that happens when I see it. It's like, wait a minute, why are you? It's time out for that. It's time to keep moving.
Yeah.
You know, the Montgomery bus boycott took 381 days.
Right.
You know, and which is bringing me to July 7th. You know what I'm talking about. Blackout. Yeah. Tuesday the 7th?
Yeah, it falls on a Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah. So are you familiar with any of that, Tiffany?
The blackout day of boycotting consumerism.
Yeah, we're supposed to be not buying anything that day.
I mean, I reorient to what you just said. The Montgomery bus boycott took almost over a year and some change. And one day of not engaging in consumerism is demonstrative, but it is performative.
Yes.
For change to really occur, it needs to be longer than one day. And I struggle a lot with one day boycotts because we go right back the next day and spend double. And make up for what we lost.
Tell the truth now.
And, you know, for it to be effective, it needs to be longer, and it needs to redirect money into Black-owned businesses. And so unless there is a well thought out plan that extends beyond one day and that has the staying power of a Montgomery bus boycott, which is why it was effective, then we are going to be again in this hamster wheel.
Yeah, you're right. Because also we live in an age where everybody wants things immediately.
Right.
We want things now.
Right.
You know? But it's going to take a while.
Right.
It's going to take a continuance of a certain kind of motion,
right,
for a certain amount of time.
Susan says how long might be effective. Montgomery was 381 days.
Yeah,
we don't know. I mean, it's there are so many different factors.
Sure.
To what makes a boycott successful, but it needs to be longer than one day.
I agree.
It needs to be longer than one day.
I guess my point in bringing it up is that was the only thing that really kind of forced white America's hand, was our economic, us holding back our economic power.
No, white supremacy is firmly rooted in capitalism. They can't exist without each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so so if you're going to affect white supremacy, then capitalism is where you charge. And if you're going to affect capitalism, then white supremacy is where you charge. And it's not one day. It's literally, it is an ongoing battle. If it were so easy to be solved, it would have been solved by now.
Well,
it's been going on for hundreds of years.
Yes.
And this segues perfectly to the other note that I'd made, because this is a conversation I've had separately with Tiffany and Michael, and I definitely wanted you two to discuss it. In talking about supporting versus boycotting businesses based on what their owners, their executives, their franchise owners, their employees, etc., support or do not support. I know Michael and I had the discussion when it was, big news that a Wendy's franchise owner was a Trump supporter, and a lot of people were boycotting Wendy's. In both cases, when I have discussed this with both of you, it's been a very complex and nuanced issue in terms of where do we put our dollars and how do we allow that to affect in terms of it, especially when it's not the company, but it's the executives or the owners of the company privately, or and how do you decide who and what to support and what not to support?
Can you put a pin in that for a second?
Absolutely.
Can you put Matthew Orwatt's
yeah, absolutely.
Because I want him to be able to get an answer out of this.
Okay.
Tiffany, do you see what the young man, what the gentleman wrote there?
What does his hat say?
I think it's a Trump hat. I might be mistaken, but I'm not sure.
All right. He's interested, and that's fine.
I was just curious. I see that red hat and white writing, and it feels like it's got certain other symbols. Like,
listen, my father-in-law, if he sees a red hat anywhere, he snaps. He gets mad. What it says on it.
So I don't know how to put it on the screen. I just went to his profile and looked at his profile picture. It's a red hat with white writing that says "Made you look." So that's actually hilarious.
He gets the people going. Okay.
Yeah.
Why can't capitalism exist without white supremacy? Matthew doesn't think they're mutualistic. Well, I would disagree. I would say that they are cousins. They are definitely cousins, if not siblings, under the branch of systemic control or systemic operation. So this country was founded upon systems of order, right? Law enforcement is one. Those systems of order are reactionary because there's something that has caused disorder. And so proactively, we're going to put in place different things of regulation. Capitalism is one of them. Capitalism, again, depends on the people at the bottom, people in the middle, people at the top. That's where you get classes from. Okay. Sorry, it got a little dark in here. But that's where you get class from. Now, when you think about capitalism, it obviously requires input, output. when you think about input output, those in this country, not speaking globally, but it does apply globally, those in this country who most often benefit from input output are those connected directly to white supremacy because of generational wealth. Now, generational wealth often escapes communities or people of color because we're not able to invest in or be supported by the systems of regulation like banking, lending, loaning, like business owning, like property ownership.
Well,
if Black people and other communities of color, but specifically Black people, unintentionally, or rather not even unintentionally because it's not our fault, but without agency are asked to divest, are removed from these systems because we do not qualify, because we don't have the credit score, because we don't live in the right neighborhood to get the loan, because our family doesn't possess generational wealth where they can give us a down payment, a $50,000 down payment on a home, then we are not able to benefit from capitalism. Thus, white supremacy continues to flourish because the people at the top continue to be white, and they continue to at the very least benefit from their privilege. Now, white supremacy and white privilege, they're a little different. White supremacy boasts about white privilege. White privilege understands that it is at a place that is different from others. Now, white supremacy has continued to boast about its ability to separate itself from other communities of color. Therefore, they are together.
That's pretty unimpeachable to me. Take the dude's comment down, please.
Oh, sorry.
I don't want to address that.
Oh, okay.
But I do want to say also, you're talking about the United States of America being, first off, made the richest country in the world by exploiting. I mean,
free labor.
You can put it into words.
Free labor.
How do you think capitalism did its thing?
Absolutely.
You get people to build this country, and you don't have to pay for it. Absolutely.
And therein is created this debt that is insurmountable. So
if that's not good enough for them, then they're willfully ignorant.
Yeah. Made you look.
And he did, didn't he?
Yeah.
You're not going to get away with that again, Matthew or Watt.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that you are able to put on your teacher hat, so to speak, since the hat was in the conversation.
Didn't you do it?
And really able to articulate a lot of these issues in ways that many of us, I think, struggle to put into words. Me personally, a lot of times I can sit down and write something and it be thought out and be explained well. And then when I try to actually say it out loud, it'll be and wait, what was the word I was looking for? And that was just, that was the teaching effectiveness of the classroom teacher for many years with the, So
and that's the idea. We need to have people on here who are smarter than us, so that we don't get too big for our britches.
Highly doubt I'm smarter, but I was able to articulate that particular.
Well, yes. So
we won't go with smarter for now.
Yeah. Did we want to touch on the other thing about companies and their support, whether or not they support Black Lives Matter, whether or not they support Trump, whether or not
I mean, I don't know. Certainly it's been a while since I had I ain't seen Wendy's in probably over a year. Like my wife will just cut it off and it's done. Did you hear about the Wendy's? Look what they're doing to Dave Thomas's business. He wasn't good for that. We ain't going to Wendy's no more. I can't get a double. Can't get a. It's over in my house. We tried to boycott Popeyes because they took $11 and then they charged us over like for $11.
Oh, they do that all the time.
And she said, "No, that's it. Popeyes is out." I said, "Come on now."
It's funny because me and my wife have that same argument because I will definitely not go back to a business after a certain amount of bad customer service, and Popeyes is definitely on that list.
The,
But she wants to go back to Popeyes when she wants her cheat food. So, you know,
I mean, who's it? Chris Rock said Popeyes ain't supposed to be that good. Popeyes is better than it's supposed to be. You know?
I know you, Tiffany, had a great answer for me personally when I can't remember the exact context, but I was
like about Popeyes.
No, not about Popeyes. It was late at night, and I was trying to bring home coffee for my wife and myself, and the only thing open was McDonald's, and I don't like supporting McDonald's. And you had a great way of justifying me, you know, me giving my money to McDonald's under those circumstances. And
who, me?
Tiffany.
Oh.
Do you not remember that?
I remember the conversation. I remember what I said.
Well, what you said was brilliant. So that's, you know.
Do you remember?
No, I don't. I just remember that it was.
What did I say? If you're going to give, basically, if you're going to give to Starbucks, you might as well give to McDonald's or something like that.
No, it was completely different. It was about the justifying sometimes how much sacrifice do we make to avoid, like if for example, it's not the same thing, but talking about, okay, so are you gonna like for how many miles would you drive to support a locally owned business if the only option near you isn't? You know, like when does it become worth your time? What is the justification for how much sacrifice you make in order to not support a thing or support a thing? You put it into words beautifully, and now I don't remember exactly.
Well, I'll just say this, that, you know, when I heard about WeBuyBlack.com and EatBlackOwned.com, I went to take a look-see, but Spiffy, Dan Spiffy Neuman, you've been to my neighborhood. You know there ain't really none of us out here.
No.
You know, we'd have to go over North Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a half an hour into the city to support my people. You know, and it's
yeah.
I feel bad about it. I feel bad, but
at least the want is there. You know where those places are, and you know that if you're on that side of town, you can make
I might drop 20.
I mean, Black-owned businesses can often be like what food deserts are in marginalized communities, where you don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables. You might not have access to businesses that are owned by Black people or people of color if you are looking for a certain type of cultural food or merchandise. And so if you can locate them, then I believe the onus is on you to at least try to, you know, patronize them at some point.
If you can. Yes.
You know, if you can, yeah, absolutely. But that also calls into the picture the need for more Black-owned businesses, which then goes back to capitalism and white supremacy. Black folks aren't always being given these loans for businesses. If you look in certain marginalized communities, if I look in my own, there is a proliferation of marijuana stores. It's legal here in California, but it seems like there's a dispensary on every corner. There's a liquor store on every corner. There's a fast food restaurant on every corner. If I look at the percentage of Black owned or Black owners within those just three industries, pretty much all of the dispensaries are Black owned, or at least employ 99% Black people. So they have the appearance of being Black owned, and a few liquor stores might be, and maybe one or two franchises of these fast food restaurants might be. But those are the people, those are the types of businesses that are being given the capital to exist in our community. You have to look far and wide for other sources of nourishment. Now, fortunately, in my community, which is what makes it so historic and why we want to protect it so much, we have in Leimert Park bookstores, we have cafes, we have bike shops, we have health food places, we have art, we have lots of different industry. But if you go to, further into South Central LA, you're not going to find that same availability. And it's because those people, it's not for lack of wanting to have a business like that there, but they may get turned away in favor of the dispensary, So capitalism is very calculated as well, and how it manifests into ownership. Ownership is a type of regulation, and local municipalities, these people who are giving these business licenses, if they don't want a community to advance itself and to start becoming more insulated and isolated, independent, then they're not going to give them those tools. Ownership is a weapon. Why would you weaponize the people you're trying to subjugate?
Girl,
I
feel like she needs to just have a mic to drop at certain points after.
I mean, she don't need us. You teaching, Tiffany.
That was for Matt.
Yeah,
for Matt. Matt with the hat.
Yeah. And I do go out of my way to a certain degree to support Black-owned businesses in my area, and it's been very, very, I guess, I don't know whether to say disappointing that majority of Black-owned businesses in this particular area have not lasted. You know, I've had one of the comments that was up there earlier was from the one of the owners of a local Black-owned barbecue restaurant, the place that I sent you the barbecue from, Michael.
Yeah,
and
good.
and they were in business for, I think, maybe 2 or 3 years, 4 years. I'm not sure exactly how long. Well, it was the number of years.
All right.
But it wasn't. But they eventually didn't make it. And I could name a list of dozens of Black-owned businesses in this area that have not succeeded. Mm-hmm. And it's so sad and disappointing when you consider that there are other businesses in the same area doing the same thing, maybe not as well even, that have no problem succeeding. And again, you know, I mean, without actually, you know, knowing the details of why specific businesses folded, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with the stuff that Tiffany is talking about, with resources that aren't available to them, that they don't qualify for the loan or the thing or whatever.
The bailout.
Yeah. I know. I mean,
go ahead. I'm sorry, Dan.
I was going to say, I'm going to put her up on the screen right now. Black-owned, Black business owner here that applied for the pandemic assistance. Mm-hmm. And her and I talked about it. She did not even get remotely, you know, considered for it.
Right.
And we saw how many corporations and how many larger businesses were.
Absolutely.
And no, there were definitely some statistics that Black-owned businesses were being locked out of that.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing being also that I remember reading that that prioritization was being given to, if you banked with a certain bank, then when you applied for the pandemic assistance, you were being given prioritization. So then you have to look at okay, well then who also banks with that bank, and that also extends another layer of privilege.
Right.
And, you know, I don't know, other than continue to support the businesses that I'm able to, you know, and not look, you know, not just when there's sales and discounts and things like that, but when it's full price. I don't know exactly what else to do as a consumer, because I hate seeing the businesses that I love and support fold.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I don't know that there's an answer to that yet.
Right.
You know, right. I mean, move back into the hood, sustain the gunfire just for some good ribs.
I mean, even here, I'm not far. I mean, Madison, Wisconsin doesn't necessarily have a hood, and the closest thing that Milwaukee has is where I work. And I go to those areas frequently if there's businesses there I want to frequent. It's not, you know, it's even there. So I don't think you've probably been through Madison before, Michael. I doubt Tiffany has. There's a main thoroughfare that leads from the highway to downtown. It's called Park Street. And that is, I don't want to say it's a historically diverse neighborhood, and that's where a lot of the historic Black churches are and things of that nature. And that whole street is being bought up from the university to the highway gradually. It started at the university, and the closer you get to the highway, the more and more it's getting bought up by condos and by chains and by you know, they are gradually putting all of the local businesses, many of which were minority owned, on that strip out of business. They can't. The taxes are going up. The rent and the property taxes are going up, and they can't afford to stay there. So it's not that different to what you've been talking about, gentrification in other historically non-white communities.
One of the things that can be done, and that has proven to be quite successful in South Central specifically, recently, like yesterday, is getting involved in your local city council and attending. Not saying everyone's not meant to hold office. I understand that. I'm not asking for that, but attending city council meetings, really staying abreast of ordinances and different things that are coming, into the conversation to be passed. There are so many meetings that go on under the noses of the people, and we find out across the country that things were passed, and we didn't even know there was a meeting for that. They say, well, we consulted with community members, and we did a survey, and we did all these different things, and you're thinking to yourself, I had no clue how'd that happen. But they were able to get the community support behind whatever it is they wanted, and they passed or put into place whatever it is that was their goal. And you could have been the one to stop it.
Right. You didn't even get a chance to have a voice.
You didn't even get a chance to have a voice. And it's really difficult because they hide these things on purpose. It has happened here forever in my community, but people started getting wind of these meetings and they started disseminating them to the community via Facebook or other social media. And then you're able to storm essentially these meetings or these phone conferences as of late. And the repetitiveness, the disruption, the urgency with which this type of galvanization, acts upon or within, does push people in positions of power to listen. They will listen by any means necessary, right? Jimmy, by any means necessary, you get involved. So consumerism is your first step, going out and actually being a patron of these Black-owned businesses. Then you want to, in tandem with that, congruently, you want to find out where these local meetings are happening so that you can go and find out information and make your voice heard. Again, because if they're going, well, we needed 72% of the community to pass this, and the only people who came out to that meeting were your new neighbors, then you are not making yourself heard. They're cherry picking who they want to be a part. Maya just said, Black business owners often lack the support and mentorship other business owners get in how to create a sustainable business model. Absolutely. Maya, my girl Maya right here, Maya Ray, please go in the comments and find her name and click it and subscribe to everything she has, because she is a very astute and business-minded professional who gives great mentorship and advice on how to get a business license, how to do this, she's helped me with trademarking. She's helped me with so many different things. And she is dedicated to empowering people so that the questions that might go unanswered, if you call up to your local city municipality to get the question and they hear the intonation in your voice and they can tell that you are one of us, you might not get that question answered. Go to Maya, because Maya probably can direct you to someplace.
Maya, if you have any links, Maya, put them in the comments and I'll put them on the screen. If you have any links to your resources, your sites, anything like that. If she's listening, I'll
information.
Hashtag be a possibility. Hashtag be a possibility. That's Maya's.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi to Jen and Mauricio too. Sorry, my friends are tuning in.
Oh, well, I'm glad you told somebody who's going to be on.
I wait until the last minute because that's how people act. They go, oh, it's right now. Okay, I'm gonna log in.
That's cool. You know your people.
I know my people because I am the people. I'd be like, oh, right now I'm gonna log in.
You are those people. Yeah. I feel you on that.
So go ahead, Tiffany. You ready to say something?
No.
Okay. I don't want to limit the conversation in any way, but I do want to make sure we open up, since everybody here has been involved in the music industry in some way. I want to open up for some music discussion. Especially Michael's one of my favorite music industry storytellers. So, Tiffany, if you knowing some of his background and some of what he's done, if you have any questions for him or any stories that you'd be interested in him telling, I love putting him on the spot for that because he's such a phenomenal. What's with that face?
I'm like, oh my gosh, he doesn't want to do it though.
Listen, Tiffany, I'm a fan of yours at this moment. So if you really have questions, but you could care less what I've done or where I've been at.
I have a question. So, Michael.
Yeah.
If Prince were here.
Oh.
If Prince were here and he was living in that beautiful home right there, how do you think he would be responding to what happened to George Floyd? While you're answering, I'm going to turn on a light because I have mood lighting going and it's getting a little dark.
Well, wow. I mean, it's difficult for me to say because I actually, a lot of Prince's activism to me came after my tenure with him.
Okay.
Like we used to hey Prince, what can't we play the Essence Festival? Like he got a different kind of Black conscience later on in his life, and while I was there, it was really all about just the evil of the music business. We dealt with all of that. I was there with the name change. I was there. He walked into rehearsal with "slave" written on his face. Like that was my chapter. I know he, with the song Baltimore and whatnot, and he definitely got a lot more verbose about it as up through the 2000s and whatnot. It's difficult to say how he would respond. However, I'm sure he would have something to say about it. And he probably would do what he normally did, write a song about it.
Yeah.
It's just, I was not as familiar with him in terms of activism.
Okay.
Like a lot of the stories I heard were him and Sonny Thompson grew up with Prince. He was basically his mentor. And he played bass in the band when I was in the band. And sometimes him and Sonny would just start talking about something that happened on the North Side in the 70s. And I can do nothing but just sit there and go, ooh, because we've discussed how cities, racism can affect the way a city is built.
Yes.
And where the money is going and where it stops. And if you can get off the freeway here or not. And,
capitalism.
Yes. Redlining. Capitalism too. Yes. So
white supremacy. See,
well,
there we go again. Here it goes again.
It all up into it. All right.
Right on back.
Well, again, those who are still scratching their heads, we just hit another one. So, he would have been 62 this year. I'm 51. Okay. So those dudes they got a little bit on me.
Okay.
So I caught what I could. And, some of it was just, oh, you remember so-and-so? Oh, yeah, man. Oh, that was, and then they'd, out of nowhere, it'd be like, that's right. His sister got killed down at the so on and so forth. It's like, man, y'all lived rough. Sonny and Prince talking back and forth just about growing up over North.
Okay.
Was really something, so I know it's in him. I mean, he'd say things from time to time. Like, I wasn't always rich. There was a time when all I could do was stand outside the McDonald's and smell the fumes, and you think when you're a kid, because it's sold to you that way, and you smell those fries cooking, they don't tell you what's in that food.
Right.
So he was very conscious about what he put in his body.
Right.
Later on when he could afford to be, so I get tidbits like that. They went over south one time and Sonny's mom had to go pick him up because they got into it with somebody, and she asked him, "Y'all didn't bring no heat with you?" I hear stories like that. Just, I guess it's I don't know Prince in that respect so much. He was really preoccupied with getting his freedom as an artist.
Okay.
During many of the years that I was with him.
Okay.
And
which is radical activism.
Yeah. Now that's yes. Now you're talking about somebody. Really, I mean, we literally had conversations in his office where he's like, I don't know what they're going to do when I say this.
Right.
I need y'all to, you know, be mindful and know, you know, to a certain degree that such and such has got to get out. If this, you know, this and that in the vault, there's so on and so forth, like real situations where I think he knew that the way he was speaking truth to power was incendiary.
Yes.
You know, so I really got familiar with him through that. But I mean, each black man living in the United States of America, he certainly would have had something to say about it. You know, I speaking for him is you can't call it. So I didn't put myself in that position, but he certainly would have done more than just sit there.
I have a follow-up question, actually.
Yes.
Which you have reposted and I have reposted many times. One of the later things you did with him, which was his live performance of Dreamer, which I can't remember if it was that you credited or somebody else credited as his most woke song. I know that was the caption accompanied, and it was very, very like pro-black. And was there any discussion about the message of that song, or what, you know, because that was later in his life when he had gotten more vocal about his activism? Yeah,
that's on Lotus Flower, which I played on. I don't think I played on that track though.
But you played on the Tonight Show version of it.
I did play it live on the Tonight Show, but the Lotus Flower record, I played on almost every song except that one. I think it was already finished.
What was there any discussion about the message in that song, or
no? Not well. What was funny is when we were rehearsing it at 3121 out in California, there was a spot in the song, and I was kind of cutting it up. I was doing my best Andy Newmark, and he was like, "Don't do that there." There's very important words right in that spot. So I knew a spot to stay out of where he was trying to get something across that was very clear. But I couldn't tell you what. I just stopped. I just didn't do that no more. No problem, Prince. You'll never hear me do nothing in that spot again.
So there's a question up here from Nia. We're jumping topics a little bit, but
well, given statements from Dave Chappelle and Terry Crews, should we expect celebrities, black or otherwise, to be voices? I mean, what can you expect from anybody? You know, expectations are usually, you know, the seeds of disappointment. And I don't need. I think this. I mean, I have to agree with Chappelle. The streets are speaking for themselves at this point. You know, I don't think that we need. See, the thing I don't like about being, well, not about being black, but about the perception. I always think about Chris Rock saying, the black man has to fly to what the white man can walk to. Like, we got to be superheroes on a daily basis, you know, in order to matter in some way, shape, or form to everybody else.
Right.
I mean, and fair enough. Black culture is American culture. So our voice goes around the world no matter what. You know, now if we all decided to, you know, reignite the love movement and move through this, you know, through time and space with the message of love, we could transform the planet in a very short time. Because nobody wants to be black, but everybody's hanging on every word we say. You know, everything we do. I mean, it's creating things that the rest of the world is eating off of. You know, we're especially in entertainment. You know, it's you know, you think they'd be a lot more grateful. I still don't know, what are white people so mad about? What are you mad about, man? My wife was in the drive-thru at Culver's the other night. That was last night. And she said some white dude in a big black truck with a bumper sticker that said "Black Rifles Matter" was in the drive-thru, and there was a group of about 4 black women in a sedan or whatever close by. This dude looks over and starts revving his engine. Why are white people wilding out, man? I don't expect you to answer, Dan, because they want to know why you ain't with them.
I was gonna say that question's for Dan.
Yeah, that question's for Dan. Can you speak to the white psyche in America and why they're losing their minds right now?
I think white people. I'll try. I think, for better or worse, white people find black people intimidating, whether it's because of culture or whether it's because of rising up against the white power structure or any number of reasons. Again, so much about this country is defined by black culture and by black movements that, you know, I mean, we even talk about how a lot of as beauty standards change, a lot of white beauty standards have become copying black beauty standards.
Well, you go back to 10 with Bo Derek on that. That ain't getting perm and whatnot.
And so I think that whether it's from the more direct action or the more indirect cultural contributions, I think white people that resent that feel threatened.
They just scared? Is that what you're trying to tell me? They scared.
I think it's like the I don't know if scared is the thing, but you're trying to keep something down so that it doesn't rise up and affect you. You know,
time and again. Now we're back to the young lady who was on John Oliver, who ended it with you're asking for equality and not revenge.
What was her name? Kimberly Jones? I gotta look her up again.
Man, she hit
Kimberly Jones.
I mean, that's the reality, is that we've never risen up as a people and gone to overthrow nothing white. We're just like, get out of our business. We ain't asking for nothing. It's back to Reverend Al. See, I'm looping it. I'm getting there, man. It's 8:49. 9 o'clock's coming. So I'm getting all my red herrings and I'm connecting my dots.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I'm trying to summarize. Amen.
I'll go get the organ.
Review, amen, what you have not, amen, viewed. Amen.
Praise hallelujah.
Praise hallelujah. Hey, listen. Don't start.
Hey, one of these weeks, I'm actually gonna have it set up on the organ, so when you get in that place, I can be ready to back you up.
Yeah, you might need to do that one of these weeks.
Hey,
but I just, it's like, what makes a grown man do something like that? You want to what were you saying? I don't want your double wide. I don't want nothing you got, man. I want what I can accomplish on my own without you getting in the way.
Fear.
Why is that an intimidating idea?
Fear, loss of power, loss of control. Again, if this country has been predicated and founded upon control, and those at the helm of control have looked like that man in that pickup truck are likely his ancestors, then anything that is the antithesis to that, pride, physical being, independence, education, beauty, art, whatever, is going to be a threat to that control. If we don't stay beneath their thumb, then they are reactionary. They feel the need to act. And that was a display. That was an action to intimidate, to scare. He's scared, so he's trying to scare. Hurt people, right?
Wow. You humanized something that was making me mad for hours.
No, be mad. Be mad. It's some lunatic. I've seen a few people do some lunacy, especially in wake of this last couple of weeks. But there's some lunatic driving around out here in Southern California in a pickup truck with a big American flag hanging out the back and a noose connected to the flag. And it's again, these are displays of fear. They're outward displays of fear. When you are backed up into a corner, you strike. They are striking.
Well, I guess. I mean, but
Yes, Jen. Jen just said it's also fear of retaliation. They're scared if we come to power, we'll do to them what has been done to us. And they're saying that it's happening in small microcosms across the globe. It's happening. And the power structure is crumbling, or at least it's being chipped away at it. It's not crumbling. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's a lot more to deal with, and it's going to take more than just 2 weeks, right? What is it? Rome wasn't built in a day.
It was only a couple. Yeah, it was only a couple of weeks, wasn't it?
Only a couple of weeks. But they're saying that it is penetrable. You know what I mean? That it is not infallible. It can be deconstructed. And people can divest from it and function without them. We don't need them. And they're like, oh my God, I've been needed all this time and I don't know how to feel without being needed, without being feared.
Well, not only that, yeah, it's also, we don't need them.
Hello.
We don't need them. We have the ingenuity, the talent, the work ethic. We built a whole nation.
Come on, say it.
For nothing.
Say it. Say
so,
it.
I get it. I understand. I spent my whole life trying to be rational, trying to look at things from, trying to find insight.
Right.
And then something that basic can escape me, like I don't understand it.
Right.
So thank you for, I guess, putting it in a frame that I can digest more easily. Because when I see primal response like that, it's contagious. It makes me want to go out and get loose.
Right.
Get active.
Right. And you guys, please go look at Terrence Joseph's comment. He just commented a James Baldwin quote that completely reflects what has been said this entire time. Michael,
put it up, will you?
I did.
The root of the black man's hatred is rage, and he does not so much hate the white man as simply as want
out of his way.
Yeah. And more than that, out of his children's way. The root of the white man's hatred is terror, a bottomless and nameless terror, which focuses on this dread figure, an entity which lives only in his mind. Yes. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, of course, yes, it's James Baldwin.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's right. The same thing we were talking about earlier when we were talking. I can't remember what brought the conversation there, Michael, but we were talking about how so many of these Trump supporters that support him out of fear. I said earlier that like nobody wants to come and loot your double wide.
Yeah.
You
ain't got nothing in your trailer I want.
It's you see these memes where where it's the people that feel threatened have absolutely nothing to be threatened about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not substantiated, and more often than not, these are people who are in rural parts of the country. They don't even engage with. You don't even know what black people are like, and maybe that's the problem. You ain't got no black friends. Cool all that out. Every white person out there watching this broadcast now, get you some black friends, all right?
And not as a novelty, not as a decorative statement.
Yeah, more than 3.
Be a friend to them so they can be a friend to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Not
so
just to meet a quota.
We're civilized. We think we have complex thought. We originated the sciences of the mind in Egypt. The original colleges, universities of the world were in Timbuktu, I believe. Europeans used to go study there. See, that's the other thing, is a lot of us don't know our history. And, the institutions that aren't trying to teach it to us. You really got to do a lot of searching for yourself if you're going to be black and civilized, and have knowledge of self in this country,
And even if you want to be black and wild and turn up, you still are
at least do it with intelligence.
Humanity.
Yes. Well, all right.
Because not everyone is an academic, and I appreciate academics. I really, really do.
Yes.
I think something that we have to challenge ourselves as Black people to do is to not prove our worth by what we are able to recite. And while being able to reference literature, and this is not any thing against what you just said, Michael, in the sense of citing Timbuktu and our influence on the world. What I fear, though, is that there are Black people who have been conditioned to equate their value, again, we talked about this earlier, to what they can give. Our value shouldn't be a transaction. Our value should be inherent. And white folks should, one, we don't need them. But two, if you want to be friends with us because we are people, right? Period, then be friends with us for who we are, not what the transaction entails, not simply because we are intelligent or because we are well-spoken. Shout out to Jen. We had a great, very lively conversation yesterday on her Facebook about being well-spoken and having our value inherently connected to that. And we're only validated by how well we're able to articulate.
We agree by how well we can assimilate.
Exactly. How well we can assimilate, how comfortable we make other people.
That is something else to watch out for. Absolutely.
Yeah. So again, if you have no literary reference points, if you don't know how to read, you're still a person, right. And you deserve. Yes, and you deserve. You know what I mean? And people can't just count you out, and pigeonhole you simply because of that stereotype. There are things that you have still that are worthwhile. Just simply being a person makes you worthy of, having people recognize your humanity. Now, what you do with that, that's how you move in the world.
You're going back to George Floyd and how they want to slander his name and talk about what he might have done or didn't do.
Absolutely.
Not remove the fact that he was a human being.
Exactly.
That was a human being lying in the street.
That was a human being lying in the street, and no one would want that for their loved one.
Exactly. That's the other perplexing aspect of it to me. Just imagine somebody you love or yourself in that position. That should inspire you with enough humanity right there.
Mm-hmm.
You get off all the sidelines and whatnot. Well, we don't really know what he did. Well, were those few moments where he was in the cop car where there was a struggle. And none of that matters. It don't matter. That's still a person.
That's still a person. And whether you are drunk in line at Wendy's in your car and you get out and you're in your drunken state, with a cop and run away, you don't deserve to be gunned down in the street based off of someone's fear and intimidation.
Because you're too lazy to go catch him.
or too proud to let him go.
Ooh.
Or too proud to let him go.
The spirit moved, didn't it? Shanto. Tiffany, you hit the nail on the head at the right time.
Oh.
What a blessing.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure, my honor.
Where have you been my whole life?
Right here. Dan decided to get it together.
Fighting the fight. Where were you?
I bet, Michael, I better see you tagging her in like you tagged me in.
What did I do?
Oh, you know how when there's something's getting heated on your page, you'll drop me in?
Tiffany don't need no help. Oh. Tiffany is a one-person army.
Thank you very much.
Man, you want me to work, I'll do the work. You don't need me. Man, you bad all by you.
So
I appreciate it.
Tiffany, do you have any links that you can put in the comment and I can put up on the screen, whether a profile for people to like, or I'll put up the link to your shop.
Do that. My phone just died, so I can't do anything on here right now until I plug it up and start charging it. But the link to my shop, again, it's Tiffography. Dan will put this up, but tiffography.threadless.com. A lot of merchandise there, my original photography, as well as some socio-political statements. The most recent one, and I'll explain it briefly, I made a shirt, and it has across the chest, Black supremacy. And it comes in shirts, sweatshirts, towels, whatever, but it says Black supremacy. My thinking behind it is not simply because Terry Crews opposes it. My thinking behind it is that it is such a scary philosophy, such a scary concept, that we owe it to ourselves to embrace it. It makes people so uncomfortable for us to be thought of as supreme, for us to be thought of as, first, or just in such a large ideology that of course we are. Like if people are so afraid of it, then of course we're that. And we know we're that. That's what Black power is. All power to the people. That's the root of it. So Black supremacy is my most recent shirt. And there are other things there. Dan, I'm all on Facebook. You guys see my name there. So please, send me a friend request or whatnot. I'll also send some links to you, Dan, here in the chat for some other people like Maya, Terrence, people who have wonderful platforms and clothing with similar statements that I support, I wear. So Terrence with at Uncanny Music on Instagram, Uncanny with a K, UNKANNY music on Instagram, has beautiful shirts with great proud things for Black folks. And then Maya with beapossibility.com. Again, just beautiful sentiments and teachings. And these, again, it's not all about me. I want to support my people, and my people have some great stuff. So please check them out too.
You're supporting your people right now.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Do you want to address this question from your friend before we wrap it up?
Yes. And can we, yes, me read it like her. Yes. And can we please touch on this concept of humanity versus Americanism? Ooh, because we're all begging for humanity, but nobody is really addressing the fact that this is happening to American citizens. This could be for other people too. For all the America First crowd, they sure seem to get quiet when it's one of us gunned down.
Yeah.
Maya taught me something last week or 2 weeks ago where she said, America likes to divorce Black people from their humanity. That was very profound to me. It is a way, again, to remove accountability. It is a way to sanction violence and subjugation if you do not acknowledge an entire group of people as being worthy of the basic tenets of civil rights. If you don't acknowledge that, then you don't have to provide it for them. And when other people don't provide it or take those things away, then you are able to remove your own emotions from it. It's, it's like watching for people. I'm a huge animal person. I love animals. I have animals. I love animals. That's my life. But there are people who are not. And so what moves me, like if I see an animal in the street or an animal is injured, may not move someone else because they don't see that animal as necessarily being a sentient being, even though for me they are. So there are whole factions of people, whole systems created to, again, divorce us from being sentient beings, being deserving of civil rights, and being a part of humanity. So again, they don't have to hold themselves accountable. They don't have to atone if, we're not like them. Huh. So yeah, they totally get quiet. Totally get quiet. At Haas Avenue, HAAS Avenue is the other component to the clothing line for Uncanny Music. So there are two websites, but you can go to that one that's on the screen right now. Please. It's a really good one I support.
I'm going to jump completely to a different topic because there's been a music question from Michael that we've run out of time for the past 2 weeks.
We're going to close the show on it then.
Coincidentally,
Tiffany like that?
I was going to give her a chance to come back and close us out after, but I just want to make sure I get it in there.
Okay, I've talked plenty.
Well, or if you have any other questions for Michael or myself.
Well, what is the other question we've been avoiding, man?
So coincidentally, it's about the same drum break that my wife has been obsessed with recently, the one from the Hero Town video that you can go and look up on YouTube. They want to know if that was done live or if the audio was recorded first and then went back and mimicked playing the video.
Oh, no, that was all live. Wolfpack don't play around. It's got to happen now. We took several takes, and we shot several takes. But I think that was the last one. And no, that's happening in the moment. The recording and the filming.
I think the reason they asked is if you ever watch on YouTube, sometimes YouTube, the audio and the video are not quite in sync.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And so they saw that and they're like, the audio isn't matching the video. And like, no, it's
those bullets I was sweating were real.
So, well, Michael, do you have any other questions for Tiffany? Or Tiffany, do you have any other questions for Michael or myself?
No, just thank you guys very much for the opportunity and the time and the questions. Thank you guys very much.
So next week, and hopefully Tiffany will join us and watch us next week and join in with the comments. But the next week's guest is going to be very interesting. We're going to shift to COVID-19, and we have a Black female COVID-19 researcher from Oxford University in the UK, currently working on COVID-19 in Bermuda. So this and her name is Karika Weldon. If you Google her, her credentials are like this.
Come on, sis.
So it's
I'm very Karika. Yes.
I'm hope I'm saying her name right. Because I've never actually heard it out loud, but Karika, it's Carika. If anybody wants to Google her, WEL. I should just put it in the comments.
Put it in the comments.
But it's going to be, I mean, I'm sure that she will thoroughly outclass all of us, and it's going to be very interesting. I'm very excited about that. Did that go up? There we go.
There it goes.
So yeah, look her up. That's next week. And thank you once again, Tiffany. You've just been wonderful. And hopefully my goal of making you and Michael friends has succeeded.
Yes.
We're friends, right?
Yes, we're absolutely friends.
You said we're friends. All right, then.
We are friends for sure. I got your back.
Both of you guys are incredible friends to me, and I appreciate your input, and I'm just grateful to do this. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna go off the air, but we will see everybody next week.
Bye, guys.
Oh, we're supposed to give the fist of the Black Solidarity fist.
Oh, we can do that. Or since you were preaching earlier, we can do the church version. May the Lord watch between me and thee, one from another.
From one another. Yes. Amen on that too.
This was water.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can drink that wine, girl.
It was water.